When you picture the ocean, what color comes to mind? I'm willing to bet it's blue, right? A vast, endless, unchanging blue. That's the image we all have. But what if I told you that image is completely out of date? Our blue planet is quietly, but very, very quickly, turning green.
You see, for generations, the myth was pretty simple. The ocean is a stable blue world, and its life is dominated by these tiny, microscopic plants called phytoplankton. That was the bedrock of ocean science. But the reality? Whoa, it's a whole different story. A massive green tide of seaweed is taking over, and it's changing absolutely everything.
So you might be asking, why do we believe in this blue ocean myth for so long? Well, honestly, it's because our tools just weren't up to the task. Early surveys, even our first satellites, were basically programmed to only see the signature of those tiny phytoplankton. Big floating patches of seaweed? We saw them, sure, but we figured they were just rare, local oddities, not a sign of a global shift.
But that old way of thinking, it has just been completely blown out of the water. It took a super powerful combo of modern artificial intelligence and decades of satellite pictures to finally pull back the curtain and show us what's really been happening out there.
A really groundbreaking study did something nobody had ever done before. Researchers took an advanced AI and fed it, get this, 1.2 million satellite images snapped over nearly 20 years. They trained this AI to see what we'd been missing, to spot the huge, dense, floating mats of seaweed on a global scale.
And the conclusion they came to? It was a bombshell. The authors put it very directly, saying, the stable blue ocean model is no longer tenable. This wasn't some minor correction. This was basically them saying our entire textbook on the ocean's biggest ecosystem needed a rewrite.
So just how big is this change we're talking about? Well, it boils down to one single number, 13.4%. And that's the annual growth rate of this floating seaweed in huge stretches of the ocean. This isn't slow and steady. This is explosive, off-the-charts growth.
And check this out. It wasn't a slow burn. The data shows a clear tipping point. Right around 2008, the growth just takes off like a rocket. By 2022, the area covered by these blooms has reached tens of millions of square kilometers. To put that in perspective, that's an area bigger than the entire United States. Just wow.
So what on earth is causing this green explosion? It actually boils down to a surprisingly simple recipe. Just two key ingredients that, well, we've been dumping into the oceans.
Okay, here's the recipe. Step 1, you add heat, thanks to our warming climate. Step 2, you add a whole lot of fertilizer, which comes from nutrient pollution running off our cities and farms. You put those two together, and you've created the perfect storm for a seaweed takeover.
Let's break that down. First, the heat. A lot of those tiny phytoplankton have their limits, but these big seaweeds, like sargassum, oh, they absolutely thrive in warmer water, especially in that 25 to 30 degrees Celsius range. As our oceans heat up, we're basically turning them into the perfect hot tub for this stuff to grow.
And then there's step 2, the fuel. All that extra nitrogen and phosphorus pouring into the oceans from farms and cities. It's like pouring high-octane fertilizer directly onto these blooms. It supercharges their growth in a way that's just staggering.
You know, what we're witnessing here isn't just a case of more seaweed. No, scientists have a very specific name for this kind of fundamental takeover. It's called a regime shift, and it means the old rulers of the ocean are being kicked off the throne.
A regime shift isn't just some temporary blip on the radar. It's a fast and, more importantly, a permanent reshuffling of an entire ecosystem. The old rules just don't apply anymore. There's a new king in town.
So why is this seaweed winning so decisively?
Well, it dominates on every level. First, it can suck up all those nutrients way faster than the phytoplankton can. Second, because it floats right on the surface, it hogs all the sunlight. And third, while lots of things eat phytoplankton, almost nothing can eat this tough, leathery seaweed. It's a total knockout.
Okay, so the ocean is turning green. Why should you care? Well, the consequences are absolutely massive. This affects everything from the global carbon cycle right down to the sandy beaches where you might go on vacation.
And it's a really complex picture. There's some good, a lot of bad, and some really big unknowns. The good news, these floating seaweed forests create new homes for some fish and crabs. But the bad news is pretty bad.
When these mats die and sink, they rot, sucking all the oxygen out of the water and creating huge dead zones. They tangle up sea turtles and other animals, and when they wash ashore in these gigantic, stinking piles, they can shut down tourism and fishing completely. And the biggest unknown? We still have no idea what this all means for the ocean's ability to soak up carbon from the air.
I mean, if you really want to understand the scale of this takeover, just look at this. While the tiny phytoplankton are growing at maybe 1% a year, the big macroalgae are expanding at that insane 13.4% rate. This isn't even a competition anymore. It's a hostile takeover.
And this is the crucial point to take away from all of this. This story isn't really just about seaweed. What we're witnessing is a fundamental reorganization of the ocean's most basic life support systems, and it's happening right under our noses.
The science is crystal clear. Our blue planet is turning green. The stable ocean we all thought we knew, it's gone. So the question is no longer if this is happening. The real question is, are we ready for the consequences of living on a planet ruled by this new emerald tide?